The story begins with Noah waking up in the body of a noble, which sounds awesome until he checks his status screen, and it's the kind of result that makes silence more terrifying than yelling, with every stat sitting at F rank, except his water magic, which is only E rank. It then turns out that he was born as the 13th prince of the imperial royal family, and the emperor is already eager to meet his newest heir. And after learning that Noah's strongest magical affinity is water, the emperor casually decides that his first birthday gift will be a territory, the region of Almeria, home to a large population of the Water Clan. And the moment those words leave his mouth, Noah's E rank water magic suddenly changes to E+S. Moments later, the emperor asks to see Noah's stats, and Noah starts sweating because with numbers like his, he's expecting to get yeeted straight into the palace trash can. But somehow, when the screen shows up, his water stat has skyrocketed from a pathetic E to a shiny doubles rank. Everything else was still bottom of the barrel F, but nobody cared anymore. A literal baby had just set the record for the highest water affinity they'd ever seen, so that alone was enough for the emperor to take a strong liking to him. Turns out, the reason Noah's water magic skyrocketed was because of the fief gifted to him by his old man, though oddly enough, on his private stat screen, it still showed as E+S. As for his other boosted stats, those apparently came from his maids, and he still has no clue why, but the more servants he's got, the stronger he gets. And as for his level, it's still stuck at 1, but it's got no cap, so it's only a matter of time before he breaks the system. For now though, he's stuck being a weakling with potential. During breakfast, one of his maids, Evelyn, walked in and let him know that his brothers were here. Not just any brothers either, but the 1st and 4th princes. Now in theory, sibling visits sound wholesome, but after 6 years in this world, Noah's already figured out these two are royal level assholes, so he knows he needs to tread carefully. He made his way to the lounge and met them with the usual formalities. Then, the 1st Prince Albert suddenly announced that he had brought Noah a present. His servant carried it in, and the moment Noah laid eyes on the sword, his blood ran cold. That damn thing was cursed, and he could literally see tortured souls swirling around it. And of course, Albert knows damn well this thing is haunted, but he plays it off like it's just a nice gesture. And Noah couldn't just reject a gift from the damn crown prince, so he had no choice but to accept it, fully aware that this was gonna come back to bite him hard. He grips the hilt and slowly raises it, while Albert casually explains that this is a water attribute magic sword, and over 120 knights have already died trying to wield it. That little fact sends a chill down Noah's spine, and he immediately loosens his grip. But the 4th Prince Henry chimes in, reassuring him there's nothing to worry about. According to him, everyone who wasn't worthy of the blade dropped dead the second they touched it. So if Noah was going to die, it would have already happened. The only reason he's immune is probably because of his double S ranked water affinity. And sure, that's kind of comforting, knowing he's not going to die. But Noah's still pissed that Albert basically used him as a lab rat just to test the theory. He can't say that out loud though, so he just keeps his cool and waits for Albert to take his leave so he can finally relax. Later that day, while walking through the corridor with his maid Zoe, Noah notices something's off. Her usual calm expression is gone, and she looks upset. He asks her what's wrong, but Zoe brushes it off, saying she's fine and doesn't want to trouble him with her problems. But Noah isn't buying it, and he firmly orders her to speak up, and she finally gives in. Zoe tells him she needs some time off to handle a family emergency. When he asks what kind, she explains that her hometown was hit by a flood, and her mother's farm got completely wiped out. So now her mom has no way to support herself. Zoe had been looking for ways to earn money quickly, and was told her only real option would be working in the red light district. That's what she planned to do during her time off. But Noah cuts that thought off immediately, because there's no way in hell he's letting that happen. He tells her he'll give her mother a job instead. And it just so happens he's been looking to hire a rear gate closer. And since Zoe's vouching for her, she'll earn 10 rien a month. Zoe blinks in disbelief and asks if he's being serious, because 10 rien is way above the usual pay, and she's never even heard of that job before. That's because Noah just made it up on the spot, and it doesn't matter because it's his cash, and he'll use it how he damn well pleases. He also tells her he's got a spare house sitting on the outskirts of town so they can stay there rent-free. Zoe's been loyal to him since day one, so there's no way he's letting her throw herself into a life like that over some stupid flood. But speaking of that disaster, there's still one more thing he needs to take care of. He calls his butler Dylan and gives a direct order: start buying up as much flood-damaged land as he can. Both Dylan and Zoe are stunned by what they just heard, but Noah calmly explains his reasoning. In times like this, vultures always come crawling, scammers looking to take advantage of desperate people who have just lost everything. So he wants to secure the land before those crooks can sink their claws in. Dylan is left speechless, completely blown away that a 6-year-old could think so far ahead. Noah's way too sharp for his age, and while Dylan doesn't know it, Noah's past life taught him plenty about this kind of exploitation. Of course, he can't exactly say that, so he just moves on like it's nothing. Dylan's fully on board with helping him buy the land, but there's one huge problem, and it's the cost. and he estimates the whole thing's gonna run around 700,000 rien. Zoe practically gasps at the number, and Noah gets it, that's more than just pocket change. For context, the average adult in the capital earns around 120 rien a year, enough to support a family, own a house, and eat well. Noah's estate is definitely wealthier than the norm, but even then, he's only got around 500,000 rien on hand, so that leaves him short by 200,000. With barely any options, Noah decides to sell the land gifted to him, the fief territory the emperor gave him when he was born. Dylan immediately shoots that idea down because that land came straight from the imperial family, so selling it without permission isn't just frowned upon, it's a crime. Noah knows the risk, and he knows the consequences, but he's still willing to go through with it. If his father wants to punish him, then so be it, he'll deal with it later. The following morning, while Noah and his staff are getting ready to head out to the disaster zone, an unexpected visitor drops by, the fourth Prince Henry. Unlike Albert, who's a walking migraine, Henry is actually decent. Once you spend some time around him, you realize he genuinely cares. He came to check on Noah and to give him a heads up about that cursed sword. Apparently, the damn thing has a will of its own, so even if Noah's immune to the curse, the blade won't behave unless it recognizes him as its master. That info sticks with Noah, and he appreciates Henry for not being a complete tool. And soon after, Noah sets out for the village of Dasso. When he arrives, it's worse than he imagined. Calling it flood damage is putting it lightly. The place looks like Poseidon and Kratos threw hands here and forgot to clean up, as entire sections of the village are shredded. And from just looking around, Noah can already tell most people probably lost all their official documents in the chaos. So he turns to Dylan and orders him to head straight to the local government office and gather as many record copies as possible to make the land purchases easier. While Dylan handles the paperwork, Noah decides to hit the streets himself to see firsthand how the survivors are doing. Zoe tries to stop him, reminding him that reconnaissance work isn't exactly a prince's job. But Noah doesn't care and tells her straight up that he's going, whether she likes it or not. She can either tag along or sit tight in the carriage till he gets back. Left with no choice, Zoe reluctantly follows. And as they survey the village, the situation turns out to be every bit as grim as it looked. The entire crop yield is gone, completely wiped out, which means no food, no income, and zero chance of making it through the year without help. Then a bell rings out through the village, and all the townsfolk start gathering around what used to be the town square. Zoe figures it must be time for food distribution, as the Empire usually sends relief funds to disaster-hit areas like this. Noah's glad to see that at least some parts of the system are working the way they're supposed to, so he makes his way over to join the crowd for a meal. But the second he takes a bite, all that goodwill evaporates. The food is so bad, he's convinced even Indian street food would taste gourmet compared to this disaster. The broth is a watery, bitter mess, and he's pretty sure the veggies in it are half rotten. One of the villagers overhears Noah's grumbling and, not knowing who he is, assumes he's just another victim of the flood. The man tells him the food always tastes this bad, and even when they complain, nothing ever changes. The cooks don't give a damn about hygiene or food safety. They just slap whatever they have into a pot and call it a day. Just then, a loud announcement cuts through the chatter. An inspection is underway. Noah asks Zoe what's going on, and she explains that the local government official Lord Garl is here to check the food quality. Garl strolls over to the pot of mystery stew, takes one look at it, and thinks it's absolute garbage. But since he's not the one eating it, he couldn't care less, and he casually tells the chef to whip up something actually edible for him back at the mansion. The chef nods, grinning, clearly in on the arrangement. But Noah's not about to let this slide, so he steps forward and calls Garl out, asking if the reason the villagers are being served garbage is because he's siphoning off the food budget. Garl, thinking Noah's just another poor nobody, doesn't even bother denying it. He openly admits to skimming the funds and laughs it off, because in his mind, there's nothing a powerless peasant can do about it. Listening to this arrogant bastard brag about stealing from flood victims makes Noah's blood boil. The fury hits him so hard that the cursed sword in the carriage begins to stir in response. Garl finally snaps after hearing one too many words from this random brat. He draws his sword, fully intending to shut Noah up permanently. But before he can swing, the Leviathan sword bursts from its case and flies straight to Noah's side. Fueled by his unshakable will and sense of justice, the sword recognizes him as its rightful wielder, and now that it's chosen him, Noah doesn't hesitate. With a single clean strike, he cuts Garl's head clean off for the crimes of stealing relief funds and threatening a royal prince. Not long after, Lord Rowan, Garl's superior, arrives on the scene. Some guards rush up and try to convince him to arrest Noah for executing Garl. But the moment Rowan lays eyes on him, he immediately recognizes who he's dealing with. He kneels without hesitation to show respect to the 13th prince. Noah tells him they need to have a serious conversation about what's been happening here. Though the message is clear, Rowan is in hot water for letting Garl run wild this long. Garl's punishment is already done, but the rest of the rats who helped him steal are still around, and Noah expects Rowan to clean house. And for now, he gives one final order: make sure the people get a proper meal. Later that day, after Noah wraps up the purchase of the entire village, word of what happened reaches Albert. He's genuinely surprised that Noah managed to wield the Leviathan sword without any backlash. But instead of being worried, he smirks. His little brother might have passed this test, but Albert clearly has more plans waiting for him down the line. At the same time, Noah is summoned for a meeting with his father. He walks in ready to be scolded for selling off imperial land just to buy a flooded village. But to his surprise, the emperor thanks him instead. If Noah hadn't stepped in, the suffering in that village would have been far worse. It's clear to him now that Noah's no ordinary prince. He's capable, so he asks him to keep using that strength for the good of the empire. And Noah cheerfully accepts the request without hesitation. The next morning, Noah finds himself walking down the quieter end of Raid Street, headed for a small, tucked-away diner that not many tourists know about. Word around town is that a certain street performer's been making waves there lately, and he's curious to see what the fuss is about. Slipping inside, he picks a quiet spot and takes a seat, keeping a low profile while casually letting his gaze drift around the room. At that moment, a girl with pink hair steps forward and begins to sing. Her voice pours through the diner like a breeze, so Noah recognizes her immediately as Alice, the street performer he heard about. As he listens closely, he figures her voice isn't bad at all. But even without being a music expert, he can tell her technique is still pretty rough. She's got talent, sure, but there's a long road ahead. Still, one thing's crystal clear: she's giving it her all. Every note she hits, every line she sings, she pours her heart into it. She's not doing this just for fun. She's trying to grow, trying to survive on what little she has. Out of nowhere, the vibe in the diner shifts completely when three rough-looking men burst through the doors. They start shouting and instantly pull all attention their way. The moment they spot Alice, they begin yelling at her, demanding to know why she's wasting time singing instead of finding a real way to pay off her parents' debt. At their words, Alice shrinks back, clearly terrified. As the men close in on her, her voice shakes as she tells them she doesn't have the money yet. But she swears she's doing everything she can. She just doesn't have anything to give. The guys exchange dark smirks and start tossing around disgusting suggestions about how else a girl like her might pay up. Disgusted murmurs fill the room, but nobody steps forward. Everyone watches, frozen and powerless. Just when things are about to cross the line, Noah suddenly rises from his seat. He walks over, calm and composed, and reminds them that imperial law strictly forbids forcing a child to repay a parent's debt. The men snort and brush him off, assuming he's just some pampered rich kid who doesn't know how the world works. One of them then grabs Noah by the collar and goes to strike him. But it's a big mistake, as Noah counters using the power of his Leviathan sword, releasing a surge of pressure that shocks the entire room. The men instantly realize they've messed with the wrong person, so panic overtakes them, and the three thugs bolt out of the diner without a second thought, too scared to push their luck any further. With the danger gone, Noah turns back to Alice, his voice gentle this time. He asks her how much she needs to make it through the month, and she hesitates before explaining that most of what she earns goes toward her mother's medical care. After hearing everything, Noah calmly tells Alice that from now on, he'll be giving her 25 rien every month so she can focus entirely on her singing without worrying about money. He also promises to raise the amount as her skills improve, encouraging her to keep chasing her dream without fear holding her back. Deeply moved, Alice thanks him with genuine emotion, telling him how much his kindness means to her. She promises she won't let him down and swears to work hard and keep growing as a singer. Later, Noah heads back home, only to find the same three thugs from earlier kneeling at the palace gate. Heads bowed, they're practically groveling, desperate to apologize for what happened. One glance is all it takes for Noah to realize what's going on. They've clearly figured out who he really is, but instead of wasting time with them, Noah calmly turns to the maids and tells them to send the men away, adding that the prince isn't someone they can just meet whenever it suits them. A few moments later, Noah's older brother Henry shows up and immediately agrees with how Noah handled it. He says refusing to meet them was absolutely the right call, because letting people like that come face to face with royalty would only cheapen the dignity of the crown and undermine the authority of the royal family. Noah then invites Henry inside and explains that his decision wasn't just about protecting royal pride. He tells him everything that went down at the diner and admits that if he had spoken to the men personally, they might have assumed he was angry and start avoiding him. And if that fear keeps them away from Alice, then that's exactly the outcome he wants. Henry listens carefully and finds himself genuinely impressed. For someone so young, Noah was already thinking several steps ahead. He even admits that most of their brothers, despite being around Noah's age, wouldn't have had that kind of foresight, and the realization makes Henry even more proud. Henry then brings up the Leviathan sword and asks if the rumors are true that Noah has actually mastered it. Noah confirms it's true and says he was only able to do it thanks to the advice Henry gave him earlier, and to demonstrate it, he casually summons the Leviathan sword right in front of him, making it appear as if it materialized out of nowhere. Henry stares in disbelief because he didn't even know the Leviathan sword could do something like that. Noah explains that the blade didn't actually appear from thin air. It had been hidden beneath his sleeve the whole time, compact and dormant, until it expanded at his command. The sword itself had a will, and it was the one that taught him how to use the ability. Henry admits he had no idea that was even possible and praises Noah for discovering it on his own. Afterward, outside the palace walls, the same 3 men from earlier are still lingering around, clearly waiting for another chance to confront Noah. The moment one of them spots him approaching, he suddenly lunges forward to attack. But Noah doesn't even flinch, and with a calm expression, he releases just a sliver of the Leviathan sword's power. The shift in pressure is instant, and the man recoils in pure terror and immediately starts begging for forgiveness. Watching the entire scene unfold, Henry turns to Noah, puzzled, and asks what he just did. And Noah casually replies that he simply used a bit of the sword's aura to intimidate them. That same evening, Noah receives an invitation to attend a royal ball. And as he steps into the grand hall, all eyes turn to him, and the moment he enters, the room erupts into applause. Standing beside him, a nobleman named Radok notices the object strapped to Noah's waist and points it out. Noah confirms it's exactly what it looks like, the Leviathan sword, personally gifted to him by the Crown Prince. The moment those words leave his mouth, the entire hall falls into stunned silence, followed by a collective gasp. Everyone there recognizes the Leviathan as one of the kingdom's greatest relics, a weapon so powerful that even seasoned warriors fear it due to how uncontrollable it's rumored to be. One skeptical guest speaks up, suggesting the sword must be a fake, maybe just a ceremonial replica. Without saying a word, Noah releases a faint ripple of its power into the air. The effect is immediate, and a heavy pressure crashes down on the room, forcing several guests to shrink back in fear. The moment Noah pulls the energy back in, the room falls into a stunned silence once again, and no one questions it after that. It's clear the weapon is real, and even more shocking, Noah has complete control over it. For the rest of the night, nobles begin lining up one after another, each hoping to make a good impression. They greet him with careful words and respectful gestures, each one calling it an honor just to stand in his presence. Noah listens to every introduction with composed grace, replying politely to each guest. Eventually, the next pair in line steps forward, Byron Allen, head of the powerful Allen Company, and his daughter, Cindy. Noah studies them closely as they approach, and after watching for just a moment, he picks up on something unusual. He realizes right away that Cindy isn't Byron's biological daughter. She's adopted. More than that, it becomes obvious to him that Cindy was once a slave. The clue lies in her eyes, that careful, guarded look, always scanning the room, quietly bracing herself. It's a look Noah knows well, the look of someone who's lived in chains and never stopped watching their backs. Byron is left speechless that Noah managed to figure all that out just by looking at her. Stunned, he drops to one knee and admits everything. He explains that Cindy was originally a slave he purchased, but after seeing how sharp and quick-witted she was, he made the choice to adopt her as his daughter. Hearing that puts a genuine smile on Noah's face. He always enjoyed stories where someone's life took a turn for the better. Moved, Noah invites both Byron and Cindy to visit his estate sometime soon, saying he'd love to hear more about Cindy's past in detail. Byron bows respectfully and agrees, saying it would be his honor. After exchanging farewells, the two politely excuse themselves from the party. The following day, Noah's strolling casually through town when he unexpectedly bumps into his brother Oscar, who also happens to be the kingdom's 8th prince. After a bit of light conversation, Oscar suggests they go on a treasure hunt together, saying he's got nothing else planned for the day. Noah agrees, and the two set off toward a place called Cobalt Street. Though Noah's never been there before, he's heard plenty about it. Supposedly, it's packed with rare antiques from all over the empire. Oscar, however, points out that the place is just as infamous for being swarmed with fakes. Spotting a genuine item among the junk is seen as a basic test of skill for any proper noble. They end up spending hours browsing through shops and stands, but nothing really stands out. Eventually, Oscar sighs and suggests they give up and head home. Just then, Noah's eyes land on an old book tucked away in a dusty corner. Something about it pulls him in, so he decides to buy it. Oscar leans in for a closer look and suddenly freezes. His eyes widen as he realizes what Noah's holding, the grimoire of Andrea, the legendary mage. Oscar is convinced it's authentic, and if so, depending on the contents, the book could easily be worth 1,000 rien. He stares at Noah in disbelief and asks how he knew the book was the real deal. But truth be told, Noah had no clue. The only reason he bought it was because the second his fingers touched the cover, he got a plus added to his win stat, and that odd reaction was enough to make him think the book was worth something. Out of nowhere, a wild idea hits Noah, so he pulls out the Leviathan sword and carefully channels a bit of its energy straight into the grimoire. And within seconds, the book jolts violently, slips out of his hands, crashes to the ground, and flips open by itself. One of the spell pages glows ominously, and something dark and ancient is triggered. Before they know it, the forbidden tome unleashes the sealed soul of the legendary sorcerer right in front of them. Oscar's eyes go wide with horror. He instantly realizes how serious this is and yells for Noah to get the hell out of there. But instead of running, Noah plants his feet, lifts the Leviathan, and without flinching, slashes straight through the incoming spirit with a single, brutal swing. The blow cleaves through the sorcerer's soul, erasing it completely in one strike. As the danger fades, Noah glances at his status window and sees something new. His wind skill just jumped to SS rank. The sudden upgrade catches him off guard, but he doesn't sit on it. He quickly checks on Oscar, who's still frozen in disbelief. The prince can't wrap his head around what just happened. One moment they were standing in front of a book, and the next, Noah had wiped out a legendary soul like it was nothing. He keeps asking himself how Noah managed to grow this powerful so fast, and how he knew exactly what to do. Before the dust even settles, a man steps forward and kneels respectfully before them. He introduces himself as Alan, the owner of a nearby antique shop. After witnessing what Noah just pulled off, Alan says he feels it's only right to show him something he's been holding onto for years, something he believes might actually be a real treasure, and he politely asks them to come with him. Once inside the shop, Alan pulls out an odd-looking ring and sets it down carefully. He explains that this ring is said to only reveal its true nature when its destined owner shows up. Dozens have tried to activate it, but not once has it responded. Noah raises an eyebrow, thinking it's probably just another dud, but Alan immediately insists otherwise. He says the ring refuses to be sold, and every time he tries to part with it, it mysteriously ends up back in his store, sitting quietly among the other items. Intrigued, Noah slips the ring onto his finger, and the moment he does, a voice he's never heard before echoes inside his mind. It tells him the ring is a triple S rank rarity, and that it now recognizes him as its rightful master. As soon as the words fade, the ring bursts into a radiant glow and begins shifting. Light wraps around Noah's body like living threads, forging itself into an elegant, high-tier suit of armor right before their eyes. Upon witnessing the moment, both Oscar and Alan instantly realize that Noah is the rightful bearer of the ring. Noah turns to Alan, stating that he'll be taking it and will have the money delivered later. But before Alan can even open his mouth, Oscar steps in and tells Noah to forget the payment altogether. He'll cover the cost himself, and insists Noah treat it as a personal gift. With nothing more to say, Noah accepts the ring. Soon after, Oscar drops him off and says his goodbyes. But just as Noah is about to walk through the door, that same rough-looking guy from the diner suddenly comes charging at him with a sword. Before the blade even comes close, the ring picks up on the killer's intent and flares to life, unleashing a shield that blocks the strike completely. The carriage driver doesn't hesitate for a second and slams the attacker down, locking him to the ground. Oscar sees the whole thing unfold and is stunned, not just by the ring's quick reaction, but by how naturally Noah handled it. The way the shield activated without hesitation makes it clear, Noah's already sinking with its power. That night, Noah heads back to the diner to watch Alice perform. As she's singing, two wasted men suddenly storm the stage, shoving and yelling over her. In a flash, Noah appears between them and steps in. With one swing of the Leviathan sword, he sends both idiots flying through the doors, their pants halfway gone as they scramble off in shame. After things settle, Noah walks up to the owner and tells him not to let trash like that back inside. The owner just gives a tired sigh and says sadly that drunks like them are what keep the place alive. Noah gets it, and without a second thought, offers to buy the whole diner for 1,000 rien. The owner freezes in disbelief, then nods in gratitude, overwhelmed. Alice walks up soon after, her voice low and unsure, telling Noah she has no idea how to repay him for everything he's done. But he gently tells her she doesn't owe him a thing. All he wants is for her to keep singing, to chase her dream, and pour her heart into it. Her eyes well up, and with a warm, heartfelt smile, she nods. Noah then heads back to his seat and spends the rest of the night in peace, soaking in the soft glow of her voice as it fills the room. As the day starts, Noah suddenly gets word that dead Marley, the general in charge of Hulljoy, has shown up for a visit. Hulljoy is one of the most promising territories under Noah's rule, so he doesn't waste a second and tells the maids to bring him in. Marley steps into the meeting room and offers a formal greeting, but Noah brushes off the formality right away and tells him to relax and take a seat. The two of them first met about a year and a half ago, right after Marley was appointed as Hulljoy's general. With that in mind, Noah cuts to the chase and asks how things are going. He clearly remembers that Marley had been given an imperial order to manage flood control in the region, but just one look at the man's expression is enough to tell Noah that things are not going well at all. Hulljoy is a rich agricultural zone that runs alongside a curving river, great for crops, but a total pain when it floods, which it does from time to time. That's exactly why the Emperor ordered financial support for disaster prevention. But Marley admits he hasn't been able to get anything off the ground, and the biggest roadblock is the finance minister, who keeps coming up with lame excuses to delay releasing the funds. The second Noah hears that, his mood darkens. It reeks of corruption and mishandling of public funds, and he's not about to let that slide. Without missing a beat, he tells Marley to tag along, because they're going to have a little face-to-face with the minister himself. A short while later, Noah shows up for lunch with the finance minister, and the guy turns out to be every bit as bloated and slimy as Noah imagined. The man tries buttering him up with some empty compliments, but Noah shuts it down fast and asks why the hell he hasn't handed over the money Marley needs to fix Holjoy's flooding issue. The minister stays calm and claims he's got a valid reason, but before he can even spit it out, Noah cuts him off and warns him not to think he can talk down to him just because he looks young. Last he checked, treating a royal with disrespect was still punishable by death. That gets the minister squirming a bit, so he hurries to explain that after last year's flood, the emperor was kind enough to give Holjoy a tax break, so he figured they could just use the money they saved to handle this year's flood situation. Noah stares at him like he's gone insane. That might just be the dumbest excuse he's heard in all 6 years of living in this world. He flat out asks the man if he thinks he's talking to an idiot. The tax exemption was clearly given because Holjoy couldn't afford to pay anything in the first place, so to act like they've got extra funds lying around now is just a slap in the face to Noah's intelligence. The minister instantly realizes he's knee-deep in trouble, so he scrambles to come up with another excuse. Then he blurts out that the reason he can't release the flood funds is because he needs them for the emperor. He clearly thinks dropping the emperor's name will shut Noah up for good, and his excuse is that the emperor is getting old and wants to build a royal villa for him to relax in. That's the final straw for Noah, so he stares the man down and tells him he's just committed a serious crime. Not only did he dare to call the emperor an old man, but he also used the emperor's name to justify embezzlement. And worst of all, his excuse boiled down to, sure that territory's underwater, but we've got to build a fancy house. It's the dumbest thing Noah's ever heard. The minister instantly drops to his knees and starts begging for forgiveness, knowing full well he screwed up beyond saving. But Noah tells him flat out that if he doesn't want the emperor to hear every word of this disaster, he'd better cough up the money. The man takes off in a panic, desperate to fix his mistake before it cost him his head. With that mess taken care of, Marley finally breathes a sigh of relief and thanks Noah for stepping in. He also apologizes for dragging him into the middle of such a headache, but admits there was no way he could have dealt with the finance minister on his own. As Noah gets ready to head back, a messenger suddenly rushes in with news. The emperor has requested a meeting with him. Noah is startled because it's not often his father calls him out of the blue like this, so whatever it is, it must be serious. So without wasting a second, he makes his way to the imperial palace. Once he arrives, Noah greets his father, but the emperor tells him there's no need for all the formality. First things first, he congratulates Noah on how well he handled the finance minister. Noah's a little stunned that the emperor already knows about something that happened barely moments ago, but then he's reminded, knowledge is power, and when you're the emperor, your information network is second to none. Noah humbly accepts the praise, but says he only did what he believed was right. Even so, the emperor is clearly impressed. He tells Noah it's no small thing for a 6-year-old to see through deception so easily. And to top it off, he also heard about how Noah mastered the power of Leviathan in such a short time, which is especially impressive, given how dangerously dark that sword's magic really is. Noah knows exactly how dangerous Leviathan really is, because if he hadn't intervened back at the party, that sword would have wiped out every last person there without hesitation. But even with all that insane power, Noah still hasn't properly learned how to wield a blade. That's why the emperor decided to assign him a personal instructor. Not just anyone either, this is Damian Noble, the Empire's undefeated champion and the greatest swordsman alive. The emperor wants Noah to absorb everything he can from him, and Noah agrees to the arrangement. But before any formal training begins, Damian suggests they have a little friendly duel first. The emperor raises an eyebrow, thinking that's a bit unfair since Noah's never been trained in sword combat. But Damian reassures him that it's just a light test to gauge Noah's raw potential. Eventually, the emperor gives the go-ahead, so Damian lifts his sword and tells Noah to attack however he likes. Without hesitation, Noah grabs Leviathan and charges straight in. As the fight begins, Noah suddenly feels the instincts and battle experience of Leviathan's previous wielder flooding into him, and his swordsmanship gets sharper by the second. Blow after blow, he holds his own, and soon, he and Damian lock blades in a clash of raw force. Just when Damian thinks he's gained the upper hand, Noah flicks his sword upward with perfect precision, disarming the Empire's greatest warrior on the spot. Both Damian and the Emperor are left stunned, as Noah has already reached the level of a swordmaster, so there's simply nothing left for anyone to teach him. The Emperor is left speechless, watching his 6-year-old son take down a legend in real combat. Still, he can't help but feel a wave of pride. As a reward for such an insane achievement, he offers Noah the role of head judge for this year's knight selection exam, and Noah's genuinely honored to take on the responsibility. The knight selection is a massive annual tournament where warriors from across the world gather to prove their strength. Inside the Empire, military power is everything. The top fighters from regional qualifiers all meet in the capital for a final showdown, and whoever wins earns the title of knight. Once they're officially knighted, their first mission is to serve directly under the head judge. And since Noah's power increases whenever he gains a skilled subordinate, he's more than eager to see how it all plays out. The tournament is usually structured as either a round robin or single elimination. But Noah's already got a different idea for how things should go this year. He asks the Emperor for permission to scrap the regional qualifiers altogether and host the entire tournament in the capital because he wants to witness every battle with his own eyes. And he refuses to let any promising candidates get tossed aside just because he's not there to stop it. The Emperor grants full permission, telling him to run it however he sees fit. And with that, Noah gets straight to work putting his new plan into action. Back at his place, Noah casually asks Zoe if her home village ever sends anyone to compete in the knight selection exam. She says they do, but usually just one person. And that's only so the village can hope someone makes a name for them. Noah lets her know that he's decided to eliminate the regional preliminaries altogether, which means her village can send as many people as they like. Zoe's glad to hear it, but says there's still a huge problem. The reason they only send one candidate isn't just about odds, it's money. They simply can't afford the cost of travel and staying in the capital for the duration of the exam. The entire village has to scrape together every coin just to send that one person. So the idea of sending more just isn't realistic. But Noah doesn't like the idea of potential talent being wasted because of money, so he decides right then that he's going to personally cover travel and lodging for all candidates this year. It's a generous move, no doubt, but also an expensive one. Housing that many people in the capital would normally be insanely expensive, and there's no way they can just throw that kind of money around. But Noah already has a plan. He says he'll purchase all the vacant buildings in the area and use them to house the candidates. And if that still doesn't cut it, he'll build a hostel from scratch. That way, whatever they spend won't go to waste after the tournament's done. As for food, he plans to get in touch with all his merchant contacts and secure the best deal possible. Eventually, Noah brings Byron in and asks him for a cost estimate on the whole operation. But when Byron gives him a number, Noah immediately gets stunned because the price is way too low. There's no shot Byron would make any profit like that. But Byron brushes it off, saying it's fine, he just wants to support the prince. But Noah doesn't buy that shit because he knows damn well that merchants never give anything away unless there's something in it for them. So he calls Byron out and asks him to cut the act and just say what he wants in return. Byron is honestly impressed that a kid Noah's age understands how business really works. Since the mask is off now, he admits he was hoping Noah could pull a few strings during the next castle staff selection, just enough to get one of Byron's people hired. That way, if something important ever goes down within the castle walls, Byron would be among the first to know. Noah agrees to the deal, and to show he's serious, Byron swears full loyalty to Noah and Noah alone out of everyone in the royal family. Adding Byron as a subordinate gives Noah a solid stat boost, but just as he's checking his stat window, he notices something weird. His water magic stat just dropped by 1 rank. Most of that stat comes from the land he governs, which means something bad must have just happened in Almeria. Noah then heads straight to his father to report that something's going on in Almeria. The Emperor listens carefully and believes him, but still asks how Noah could possibly know such a thing. Noah obviously can't reveal the existence of his stat screen, so he keeps things vague and says he's just been picking up on signs for a while now. That answer seems to satisfy the Emperor, who shifts gears and begins explaining the situation. Turns out there's a rebellion brewing in the region. He asks Noah if he'd like to personally handle the matter, but after thinking it through, Noah declines. Most nobles would jump at the chance to earn glory through battle, but he tells his father that Henry is the better choice, since he's got far more experience dealing with this kind of mess. Later that evening, Noah and Henry ride together in a carriage, and Henry asks if he's really okay giving up such an opportunity. In a country like theirs, Noah could have boosted his status big time by securing a major battlefield victory. But Noah tells him the truth, he doesn't believe he's strong enough yet to lead troops into combat. And even if he somehow survived, he'd likely lose good soldiers in the process. And that's not something he's willing to risk just to chase a title. All of a sudden, Leviathan sends a warning of hostile intent nearby, so Noah immediately tells the driver to stop the carriage. He's certain it's a group of rebels trying to assassinate him, and since he's the target, he leaps out and sprints away from Henry, putting as much distance between them as he can. Right after that, 4 massive jets of water erupt from the ground, aiming to converge on him. But Noah already has his shield up and blocks the attack without a scratch. The rebels then rush in to finish the job, but they're completely out of their depth. Noah takes them down one by one in mere seconds, his technique too polished, his speed too fast. Henry watches the whole thing unfold and is honestly stunned by how easily Noah handled them. The only downside is that they didn't manage to interrogate anyone. They could have gotten useful intel if they'd kept one alive. That's when Noah casually mentions they're not dead. He only knocked them out, so Henry is free to interrogate them to his heart's content. Not long after that, Noah learns that the rebel forces in Almeria are made up mostly of cavalry. But there's a catch. Almeria doesn't have a single horse farm. which means the rebels must be getting their horses and supplies from neighboring regions. And that little piece of intel sparks an idea. Noah summons Byron and gives him a very specific order: buy out every last bit of horse feed from the territories surrounding Almeria. Once the rebels start running out of supplies for their mounts, their mobility vanishes, and that'll make it a hell of a lot easier for Henry to finish the job and crush the rebellion for good. That concludes this episode. Thank you for watching. If you want to see the next part, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell.